Hey, readers and writers.
Welcome to episode 105 of Read and Write, where we're going to talk about
Tackling writer's block.
In case we haven't met before, I'm Deb.
And I'm Jocelyn, and this is our podcast about what we're reading,
what we're writing,
and everything in between.
Writer's block. Everybody hates it.
Yeah. I mean, it has a nasty reputation. Do you get writer's block often, Deb?
Probably. I feel like my life is a continuous cycle of fighting writer's block. But is that just writing?
That's a really good point. I think that writer's block is kind of an inevitability. It kind of really is just wrapped up in the process of writing. You can't be creative without those moments when you're not. Have you ever heard, and I'm not going to be able to quote the source of this or even quote it correctly, so I'm badly paraphrasing, but I've heard a lot of people talk about how, a flower isn't in bloom all of the time. And you have to kind of embrace those cycles of fertility and bloom and also being dormant and not being productive or not being, quote, on or just firing on all cylinders. It's really a cycle and a process, and you kind of have to embrace that because it's all part of the journey.
I could see that. I don't know the original quote, so I don't know if you butchered it or not.
I don't even know if it is an original quote. I just see people talking about it in terms of a flower and also of nature, it's cycles in nature. And I have found that to be true in my life in general, at large. But when I think about it in terms of writing, it kind of comforts me. And I'm thinking about it on a very large scale in terms of writing because that's what's applicable to my situation right now, looking at my writing journey over the past 20 years. I can definitely see those cycles, and I can see myself transitioning into a new phase. But you could also look at it on a much smaller scale, from project to project or week to week or day to day, month to month. You could definitely see different patterns emerging. Whether they're regular or not, I think that's, depends on the specific person.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, we're cicadas, basically.
I know. Are your cicadas bad right now or what? Have you heard any?
No, actually. Usually we get all the other cycles of cicadas, but we haven't gotten anything.
Yeah, we haven't either. I keep waiting.
I
waiting. I'm ready.
I guess it's going to happen. You got to wait for the temperatures to get higher or something. But yeah, I know everybody else has had them, but we're just kind of chilling.
Yeah.
Even though they said Brudex was supposed to be all the way up into New York, where I currently live.
I have no idea about any of it, to be quite honest.
I just know that we usually find one or two in the backyard. We get a little bit of cicadas, but we're not we don't live in Virginia where our doorstep is covered in cicadas right now.
Right. I remember the last time there was kind of a cicada situation, I'll say, was when Mark and I got married. It was the same summer, and our little staycation honeymoon was camping at a local camping site. We didn't do anything extravagant. We just wanted to rest after the wedding.
Uh-huh.
But we were resting with the cicadas because they were
I actually
everywhere.
like the noise cicadas make.
I like the noise. I don't like their dead bodies falling on me when I'm trying to barbecue when I'm camping.
That is gross.
But I do like the noise, so hopefully that won't be happening to me again this year. But yeah, generally I find them very pleasing to listen to.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely a sound of my summer. And it's actually a sound that I'm trying to convey in the story I'm writing right now, because it is the height of summer at the story in the country, yeah.
Oh, there is such a strong sensory association when you think of that
summer.
sound. Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. We'll have to talk about that further when we talk about incorporating music and sounds into writing whenever we do that, because I'm just fascinated by that idea, and I think it'll be really fun to talk about.
when I was first writing some of those really hot summer scenes, like this really, really like the steamy, like it's so humid you can barely breathe. I researched for like an hour on the internet trying to find the perfect cicada sound that I remember from my childhood.
Yeah.
Because I just wanted to listen to it on loop while I was writing
I know. It just brings up so much. So many memories, so many feelings, and other senses as well, like smell and touch and feel, like you're talking about the humidity. Yeah, it's so strong.
Well, I think we've completely jumped past like what's happening in our lives this week. Should we backtrack
yes,
a
we
little
did.
bit?
Oh, I know. I got so excited talking about cycles of life and death and writing, all the important things. Yeah, do you have any like updates on writers' routines? I remember, we recently talked about having a routine in writing and how I have zero routine, and I'm just interested like how if anything's changing for you, how that's going.
Yeah, actually, I spent the next like several days after we did that episode thinking about my writer's routine and the things I said about that, and I still stand by everything I said. Like, I still think it's a little bit of BS. But I was thinking, I don't have time to write in my life. Like, I wish I had more time. And so I was like, okay, well, let's try something new. I'm late in the game, but I downloaded an app recently, like trying to get you into better routines. Like, I know everybody did them during the pandemic, but I didn't.
Yeah.
I'm doing it now at the end of the pandemic. And that also got me thinking. And so I've decided to change up my writing routine a little bit.
Oh.
Yeah. So instead of just taking like the hour of nap time and any other time I can get in between to write, I'm challenging myself to wake up every day and write at 6 a.m. for an hour.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I've done it a couple times, and it's worked. But then I got a little cocky, and I tried to move my alarm up to 5 a.m.
Oh.
And that just didn't work. I mean, I set my watch alarm, I set my phone alarm, and like my body just turns it off, and then I end up sleeping through the 6 o'clock.
Yes.
And I wake up at 7, and I'm like, crap, I missed it. So
Yeah,
I
you
have to
learned your
change that back.
limits.
Yeah. So 6 right now is a good time, and I've decided actually to hold myself accountable. I'm going to start live streaming my 6 a.m. writing sessions on our channel on YouTube.
Oh, I love this. I love this idea. I think this is great. So
I can't imagine how like interesting it's going to be. It's just going to be me talking a little bit about my story and then watching me type a sentence and deleting half that sentence and writing more of that sentence and going back through and changing one word. I mean, I can't imagine how stimulating it is, but if anybody wants to like, I mean, they do on video on demand afterwards. So like once I live stream, it does then become part of our library. So you could go back and watch it at like 2 p.m. if you don't feel like getting up at 6. if you actually feel interested in watching that process work, you're welcome to go check it out. There isn't any there now, but there might be soon.
It is interesting that, that is the most boring part of writing, I think, or the least glamorous part of writing is just sitting down and actually typing things out or writing things out. But it is the most important part because that's when you're physically putting the words on the page and creating your work. So,
It is draft 2, so some of it will go quite fast, but I've entered in this whole new character. I remember, if you remember me talking about it, I entered the new character of Tad. And I haven't written anything of his before, so all of his chapters are just coming straight out of the brain. They're probably crap. I mean, if anybody's actually reading what I'm writing, like, this is still draft 1 on that one. Nothing has been edited.
You got to write the crap out first.
Yeah, Jocelyn hasn't read this one yet. I mean, she hasn't edited it all.
I haven't.
Yeah,
I haven't gotten my hands on it.
You're officially one of my trusted readers.
Yes, and I pride myself in that wonderful place to be because I really do love reading your drafts. I'm of course slow at getting to it because that's the story of my life, but I always love reading them. I send it to Jocelyn.
3 months later, I get a paragraph.
Exactly. So if there's anything time sensitive, don't send it to me. I mean, I'll do my best. I guess if you want someone to really pump you up, I'm good for that. Like, I like to make people see the good things that they're doing. I will have things to say that are constructive criticism, but I feel myself leaning more when I give criticism. I lean more towards telling people what they're actually good at or what I think the strengths are, because I have noticed throughout my own life I haven't gotten a lot of that feedback. And I think when people know that about themselves or their writing, it's just as helpful as knowing what isn't working, because then you can get the full picture.
That. Yeah.
Yeah,
but at the same
and then
time,
it also makes people feel good.
It's true. But at the same time, then you've got someone like me who's giving it to you and be like, hey, how's the tone sound? Like, I want you to basically just read it, and I don't care about grammar. That's not this draft yet.
Right.
Tell me how it's flowing. Does anything feel blocky or choppy or not put together well?
And that's something I can definitely offer as well. I prefer to do that than line editing, because
I don't need a line editor. I mean, I probably do, but
I know we all do.
There's people you can hire for that.
Yes, exactly.
I don't want my friends line editing. I want my friends doing the flow and the characterizations.
Line editing is brutal work, and I tip my hat to all folks who do it as a career. It's a lot.
You get paid by word.
Yeah.
It's like 3 cents a word, but once you get like, it's a 90,000 word manuscript, that's up.
Yeah. And they're going to make a lot of money off of me, because I am horrible at spelling and grammar and all that. It's hilarious. You never know I have a writing degree.
Yeah, that's something, like, if you tune into the live writing sessions, you'll notice I'm just typing along, and then, like, Ulysses, my writing program, is correcting my words as I'm going.
Yes, Grammarly is always shouting at me.
I don't send it to Grammarly until, like, I'm done, though. Like, I have to be done with the draft, and I, like, put it in chapter by chapter and do it that way. I don't do it by just as it goes. Maybe I should, but I don't.
Oh, it distracts you. Speaking from experience, it's very distracting. I would prefer not to have it on, especially in a first draft situation.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you're trying to get up earlier to squeeze some writing in, because I am also trying to do that.
Am working... united front.
Yeah, we can try to be early birds, and maybe I will also
send you a text at 6 a.m.
Yeah, are you up? Which is interesting, because I think this will work out well for me on multiple fronts, because as a librarian, I think I've mentioned this before, I have kind of shifts. You know, we do work in shifts at the library, and some of those shifts are very early. I have to open the building, so there are a couple days a week.
Just one second. Is that an amazing feeling, walking into an empty library and being the only one there?
Oh my God, yes. It is,
like, just so quiet and booky. I don't know how else to describe it other than booky.
It's, yeah, I mean, it kind of can feel like a religious experience, because especially with my library, the first floor has all of these huge windows. It's a very 1970s open concept building, and there are just giant windows everywhere. So when the sun is rising, the sunlight streams in this glorious way. Oh, it's beautiful, and it can be so calming and meditative.
We need an Instagram story of you opening the library.
Oh, well, it's also kind of terrifying sometimes, too, because libraries can also be spooky. And you go into the basement. That's how you get in when you're opening the building. And so you walk in the back door into the basement. I know. And it's like dark and spooky, and they're doing construction down there right now, so all these black tarps hung up everywhere. So it goes from that to like beautiful heaven on the first floor. So it's definitely a journey. You're going through a couple worlds there.
Well, we'll take a clip of the sun streaming through the windows.
Yeah, it really is very beautiful. I'll try to capture it for folks.
You've got homework, Jocelyn.
Yeah, I have to wait for the perfect morning. I
did not mean to interrupt you. Continue.
No, it's okay. So I am already getting up at 5:30 or 6 o'clock half of the week. So I'm trying to do that every day of the week.
Okay.
I read somewhere that's also good for you to wake up at the same time most days of the week and have a regular routine.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to try to get up at 5:30 or 6 every day, and on the days I don't have to go in early, I'm going to try to write. But I'm just starting this sleep training experiment, as I'll call it, because I'm a baby. So I'm a little sleepy still on the mornings when I'm not usually up that early. And so I've just been reading with my coffee right now. But soon
That's
I'm hoping.
Always nice.
Yeah, it feels really good. It's a really nice way to wake up.
My day definitely starts with coffee. I can't have caffeine, but I still need the coffee.
Yes. Yeah, the flavor, the smell, like it all helps. It all helps. But yeah, and soon hopefully I'll transition to actually getting some words down in the morning.
Maybe I can get you to join me on the 6 a.m. writing sessions.
Yeah, I would love to join you. I'll tune in to the live stream.
I don't want you to tune in. I want you I'm going to do Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You can have Tuesday.
Ooh, yeah, I could do Tuesday.
I don't know if that worked in your schedule, but I just handed you Tuesday.
It does, actually.
All right, then. When Jocelyn gets down, she'll start doing Tuesdays.
Yeehaw.
I'm actually planning on doing some video, so you get to see me in really crappy pajamas with a crazy bed head and no makeup. And not that I wear makeup anyways. The pandemic is completely I used to be a makeup hound, and now nothing.
I know. Me too. It's trained me off makeup. I mean, I still enjoy wearing it, but I don't think I'll really go back to wearing makeup like I used to until masks are mostly a thing of the past. It's just not really
even sure I'm going to do that. Maybe mascara because I have the world's blondest eyelashes.
I know, me too. I have no eyebrows. I'm very pale, so yeah, maybe a little something
you
for
have an
definition.
Excuse for it though. You were actually blonde. I mean, my hair's dark. My eyelashes should not be blonde.
I'm just glad I'm not alone.
So yay, Jocelyn's going to start getting up early.
Oh, we'll see how it goes. Yeah. I'm hoping because honestly, I'm going to be honest with everybody. I'm not having the greatest time fitting writing in, although the past couple weeks have not been a great example of a normal week for me or a normal couple weeks. It's been a little all over the place. So there hasn't really been a good chunk of time where I could sit down and write or even an opportunity to carve out that time. So hopefully I'm moving into a phase where it will be possible. So I will keep everybody posted.
Good. We want to know how your writing's going because that's half the point of this podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right, let's get back to writer's block. I don't know where we were.
So, I'm trying to avoid the writer's block.
Well, speaking of avoiding, what's your writer block cycle? Because I know avoidance is definitely inside my writer's block.
Usually when I am forced to write something, when I'm on assignment or, this happened mostly in college when I would have an assignment or I was expected to produce something and then I would panic and all of my ideas would fall out of my brain and I couldn't come up with anything that I was actually interested in writing about. So I just kind of picked something and would push through. I don't really know what writer's block looks like for me in a freer context. So that's something I'm going to be interested to discover. And I think, I know, right? It's give it to me.
You're interested to discover how you're writing block in a freer environment.
I can't wait to see how shitty it is. Well, I think the way I handled it back in college and when I actually had to produce writing at my job, back in the day, is going to be different than how I handle it now. I think there's more control. I have more control now. And I think that it'll be more organic now than previously. So yeah, I actually am not that scared of it because I feel like I've got more agency, if that makes sense.
It does.
How about you? Do you have any cycles or patterns?
Yeah, I actually spent this afternoon kind of writing it down because I don't know if I'd ever actually gotten it down before. Mm-hmm. So I'm defining writer's block as just that blank feeling oh my God, I don't know what comes next.
Yeah.
So that's my blank feeling. And once that happens, I start to obsess about it. I try to think about it constantly and I obsess, but it's a writer's block. So if it doesn't come out there, then my next step is I avoid it. I procrastinate.
Interesting.
walk away. I play more video games than I should. My avoidance strategy. Eventually, I'll start feeling guilty that I'm avoiding it.
Yeah.
So I move on to my writing exercises.
Aha,
I've got like a 3 or 4 that I do that usually help. I mean, it doesn't always help, but they usually help. One is I do stream of conscious writing.
Okay.
Just like trying to like be in the character that I'm having the writer's block about, and then just, I don't know, just writing whatever I think comes into their head. That's usually the least productive, but I still include it. Then I do a sensory deprivation in music.
Ooh, I'm liking this. You know I would
I know,
like this.
I knew you were going to jump at it because you like music so much. But for Christmas a couple years ago, my parents got me this awesome sleep mask. It also has the this headphones built inside of it, and it's Bluetooth, so there's no cords. Ooh. So I hook it up to my phone. I play like my dramatic music, and then just like it's basically sensory deprivation. Like I can't hear because the music's so loud. I can't see, and I just kind of like let my brain wander with the story. Hopefully with the story. I mean, fingers crossed it goes with the story. It doesn't go in this weird direction. Sometimes that starts getting things going. So then I move on to the drabble stage, where I'll just write little bits, like just things that might not necessarily go into the story there, but just like little bits that come to me during my sensory deprivation things.
Yes, yeah. Just to get something down, right? Just to like
just to get it going again.
Yeah, yeah.
And if all of that fails, then I have to face the fact that there is something wrong with the outline.
Yes, I think that's a really good point. If you are struggling this hard to, continue on with your story, if you're feeling that stuck and all your tricks are failing you, it's, a good chance that there might be something wrong with your outline, with your plotting, with your original idea.
It's usually sad and heartbreaking because you've worked so long. I'm an outliner. I'm not really a pantser. I spend a long time on the outlines, and then it sucks that because everything builds on everything else. So if my outline doesn't work with like the character motivations, if the flow isn't there, then everything after that changes too.
Yeah.
And it sucks that you have to basically rework the whole thing out. I mean,
yes.
Sometimes you can get lucky, or I get lucky, and it's just that one little bit, and like you can mold it so it fits into the rest of it. But sometimes you can't do that.
Yes. Sometimes it's a deeply rooted problem. I know. Sometimes it's like a full character that's wrong, and you have to go back, and that changes everything.
Hence the reason I'm in draft 2, and I just added another character.
Yes. I mean, exactly.
Prime example.
Yeah, and I have had actually, I've had this kind of grand scale issue with a story that I have been working on for years now, and it's still on the shelf. Like I still have it, and by on the shelf I mean it's still something I want to work on. It's still
I understand
a possibility.
I got like a dozen of those.
Yeah. And when I originally wrote it, it was actually it was my NaNoWriMo project that I worked on, the one and only time that I did it. And I finished NaNoWriMo, like I hit the word goal, and it was not a good, like I'd never show anyone that draft, but it's
But you're going to
there.
show me, right?
Yeah, well, after maybe 2 more revisions. But I have a novel, like it's there, it exists in some kind of form. But I wrote it originally as a kind of a traditional thriller style, and I'm trying to decide if that is really the right approach. Maybe I need to shift it a little bit. But I've tried a couple different approaches. I've tried actually turning it into a screenplay. I've tried turning it into a comedy, which is kind of a weird process, by the way, going from a thriller to a comedy.
Like a thriller dark comedy?
Yeah, which is not unknown for me. Like I write a lot of like horror comedy stuff, so I thought maybe I could like twist it, like swap it over, but that didn't work either. So I just kind of set it down, and it's been marinating for a few years, and maybe I will pick it back up again. I have a different project that I'm like really excited about right now, so I'm not going to abandon that momentum to go back to my my old Nano project, but one day I'm going to go back to it, and you will get to see it. I swear.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I like I like all of your tips and tricks and your processes and what you do to try to get yourself going again. And especially of course like your music trick. And I do have a version of that. I have my sound canceling headphones. I will put on some kind of music depending on the mood or depending on the tone of the story I'm trying to write, and I'll just lay down and relax and try to clear my brain and see whatever pops in, and just be kind of almost meditating. You acknowledge the thoughts and then let them pass, and acknowledge and just kind of like go through, sift through them and see what might spark something for me. And I enjoy doing that a lot. And I do that at every process of my writing. It's not just when I feel stuck. That's how I'll begin projects. That's how when I'm in the planning phase, which for me is not a long phase. I am a pantser. But that's kind of where, I always go back to that. And, when I'm really in the heat of writing something, I will do that every night. I will listen to music and think about my project. So that definitely has a big place in my process in general. But I'm trying to think, back when I was in college and, such a specific situation to be writing in, right? And
that's always the worst kind of writer's block because you don't have any heart in the project.
No, you're just
writing on command
to write this thing. Yeah. And I don't think I had one thing that I was proud of in my entire 4-year process in undergrad. I have one project that I enjoyed, and it honestly still wasn't that good. It was my thesis project, so at least I liked my thesis, and again, that's one I might go back to. But when I was in college, if I would get stuck, it always came down to, I was just always stuck and I had no choice. You just had to write something. You just did something. You put something on the page. You tried to make it technically correct and as, agreeable as possible, can you live with yourself after turning this in kind of deal. And you just want to try and get the grade. But also in college, you are tired all the time. You're hungry. You're busy with other work. You're torn in a million different directions with friends, extracurriculars, part-time jobs, other classes, life concerns. It's the worst. I would never go back. Speaking as someone who got a master's degree and might go on to get another degree.
But you're never going back.
I'm never going back.
Never going back to undergrad.
I'm never going back to undergrad. Even though I work with undergrad students, I basically am back. Okay. Anyway, I can never escape. But that made a huge difference. And I don't know about anybody else, but when I am like really in the groove, either with a project or just with life, I forget to eat sometimes. I forget to drink water. I definitely
forget to drink water.
Yeah.
Like, I'll realize it's been, 6 hours. And
exactly.
And I'm like, oh, crap.
I might even have a lovely glass of ice water right next to me. But I'll just be completely consumed, and I will forget to take care of myself. So maybe that could be a problem, too. If someone is suffering from writer's block, you might have to just acknowledge the fact that you are suffering from writer's block and take a day to take care of yourself.
That's a good point.
And not worry about your project, if you can afford to do that, time-wise.
Right, if you're not doing this for undergrad credit.
Yeah, or if you're not, on submission or have an editor breathing down your back or whatever. Sometimes you are on a schedule and you gotta hit the schedule. Get it done. Do you find that doing other activities, taking your brain out of project mode and, going for a walk or watching an episode of a TV show you like, or maybe just doing the dishes, do you find that helps at all, having like a kind of like a resting brain, as people say?
Everybody gives that kind of advice. So I feel like it must help, but I don't feel like it helps me.
Interesting.
My brain shuts off. It does whatever chore I'm giving it to do, whether, like you said, go for a walk, watch TV, wash the dishes. I'm not thinking about my story.
Yeah.
And then I come back and I'm still faced with the same problems.
Okay.
Like I said, everybody gives that advice just to take a break, walk away from it, get a breather. But yes, I can understand, like, just getting up, walking around. I mean, yes, that's good for, like, your body, not necessarily not necessarily good for your problem. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it definitely makes sense.
Because I come back, I sit back down my desk, and I'm still faced with the fact that I don't know what Tad's going to say next.
I wonder if for other folks, they encounter something while they're doing this other activity that inspires them or gives them the idea.
I do have to interject, though, taking a shower sometimes will help.
Everybody does say the shower thing, and yes,
sometimes taking a shower, just staying under the hot water, thinking about my story. Like, it's something I'm doing outside the desk, but I can still think about the story. It's not like washing dishes where I'm like, I got to get this piece of grime off this dish.
Right.
It's something my brain can, like, literally just turn off and then think about something else, and then I will come up with a good idea.
I tend to find that doing those kinds of activities where your brain relaxes and kind of rests and stops thinking about your project, that will help for me if I'm suffering from a specific problem. If it's an inspiration problem or if my brain is just tired, those things help. If it's a structural problem with my story, that's not going to help. So it is always worth trying that for me. And then, you know, if it doesn't work, I can rule it out and move on to the next thing.
That's actually one thing I like about my new writing routine that's kind of helped me just put some structure on my writing more than had been there. Like, before, it was, I'm up when the kids are up. And they're 4 and 5, so they're very loud. Everything's very boisterous. There is no quiet time until we do a forced 1-hour quiet time after lunch. And that's usually when I would get my writing done. But even then, that may be like, kid number 1 comes out and asks for water. Kid number 2 comes out and wants to know what time it is. You know, just constant little tiny interruptions. And the new writing routine is actually helping. I set my timer. I aim for at least 45 minutes, hopefully an hour, but at least 45 solid minutes of writing. And that's actually really, so far it's been helping a bit, just like, hey, I got 40 minutes to put in. After 40 minutes, I don't need to think about this for the rest of the day.
Okay.
Because now I have, podcast work to work on, and, there's always the kids.
Yeah.
And everything that comes with remote learning with toddlers and all that other
crap. Lord.
Yeah. And the dishes still need to get done. So having that dedicated hour in the morning is just, I don't know, it's kind of therapeutic almost. Like, I'm just writing for an hour, and who cares what Tad says next? I just have him say something. And then the next day, I read it over. I'm like, you know what? My gut was right. I just kind of keep going with it a little bit. Or my gut was really wrong. I delete it. Yeah. But it's just saying, okay, yes, this is the time when you're writing. And then when you're done writing, you're done writing.
That's a very interesting. I feel like I've said interesting 5,000 times this episode. But it is interesting to me as someone who has been detached for a little while. Having a restricted amount of time every day to write, it could help bring out the creativity. Maybe underneath in your brain, you sense that this is it. This is all I have for today. So let's do this thing.
It's also kind of peaceful because, like I said, I'm doing it now before the kids are awake. So, and it's actually before the husband's awake too. So it's just me and the dogs and my cup of coffee. So it takes away all the other noises. I'm the kind of person where I'm constantly saying in our house that I can't have external stimuli. Like, too many external stimuli stresses me out.
Same.
Like, having music on and a conversation and questions being asked and some other noise is usually audible noises. Like, having too much of that stresses me out. So having that time in the beginning of the day where there's nothing else except the air conditioner is just, I don't know, it's good for me.
Yes.
Like, I don't have those constant tiny little interruptions, or I'm not half listening to his meeting that's going on the other end of the house. It's just me, and it's good. And it's gotten to the point where, in order to get myself psyched up to do it, at night, I've taken to like 15 minutes at my end of my day. Like, I put on pajamas, I sit in bed, and I think about what I'm going to write in the morning.
Oh, that's nice. And then it can kind of slosh around in your brain while you're sleeping.
It can do the dream thing, and then in the morning I'm like, yes. So I'm not just sitting there going, what am I going to write? It's like I've already thought about the night before, okay, this is what needs to happen next. Like I think back to my outline, I think back to the story structure that I'm trying to follow, and like, okay, this is your goal for the chapter. What comes next?
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I absolutely love that. I'm going to try that. I'm going to give that a try.
It's helpful. It really is helpful. I've actually started thinking maybe I should amp it up a step, although I am a little concerned because with my amp it up a step with getting up earlier, totally backfired. But I'm thinking about amping my nightly routine up one more step and maybe start into journaling. I've never really journaled. But I was wondering if just the act of maybe writing down these ideas at night and maybe anything else that might be lingering in my head might be helpful for my brain.
Yes, I would encourage you to do that. I am a journaler, and I don't journal about my creative writing, but I think that would be a brilliant idea, a wonderful thing to try. Journaling is very helpful for me in getting my mind right and getting things just kind of out and down and helping me think through things. And I can only imagine positive I'm having writer's block with the word I want to use. Positive results for writing as well, and you could just kind of just like jot down bullet points or, maybe, I'm thinking about maybe doing this, doing that. Oh my God, it's so loud here today. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
But I think it could really help you flesh out some ideas, and then it'll also stick in your head a little bit differently too than if you were just thinking about it. That might be good or bad. Maybe you think
I'll
of an
give it a shot.
idea.
I have extra notebooks laying around like nobody's business. For some reason, I collect notebooks, and I don't know why I'm always I always need to buy a notebook. I don't understand this compulsion.
I'm like that too. I have so many, and they're all pretty, so I'm like, I don't want to.
You don't want to sully this one.
But
isn't that the point of writing them to begin with?
I know.
I've got so many notebooks. So maybe I'll start. I've been thinking about it, but this might be the push I need to actually go and start
give it a try. Let me know how it goes. Actually, I'm going to try it too.
Okay.
Let's do it together.
We'll try it together.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm totally on board with us journaling together. It sounds so exciting.
I know. I cannot wait to give this a try and then, come back and confer.
I know.
See how it goes.
Come back in a couple weeks. So how you doing with your journaling?
Yeah. I'm going to start a new journal for this too. Oh, yes. Yes. Like you said, this will be an excuse.
Do you know which one you're going to start?
No, I'm going to have to go stare at all of them. I have 5 that I'll have to pick from, but I'm excited to do that. That'll be fun.
I actually know which one I'm going to start. I have one that I've kind of been saving for writing work, but I think I'm going to use it for this. It's like a buttery faux leather cover. It's like soft too,
tactile.
Yeah, but it's got the page. I'm a journal nerd for some reason, or at least a notebook paper nerd, and the thick paper. I hate the thin, slimy paper. It's got the nice matte, thick paper that my pen won't bleed all the way through, but yet I like to write in felt tip pens.
Yes.
So you can't have the slimy, slick stuff because then it doesn't stick to it.
Exactly.
I'm not a ballpoint person. I like the felt tips. Or fountain pen if I'm feeling super fancy.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah. I actually haven't used a fountain pen since I've had kids, so goes to show.
It seems like it would be fraught with children running around.
I definitely have my favorite ink, but my pens are probably in really sad shape. They're going to need to be soaked and scrubbed.
Yeah, you're going to have to do a lot of maintenance. Those take a lot of work to keep in good condition.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's hit our bookshelves and let's do some recommendations.
Woohoo!
You get to go first because yours are so much better than mine. Not that they're you're so thoughtful about talking about the author and how good of a job they're doing. I'm just like, I liked this book.
This is what I do for a living. This is called book talking.
Okay, book talk world. Me, please.
All right, so I'm super excited actually to talk about this one. I read it a few years ago, and I haven't stopped thinking about it. Like most of the books I have brought up in this whole experience. It's another historical fiction.
I love
this one.
Actually, mine's kind of historical fiction too.
Yay!
It's like a favorite genre.
It definitely is. Historical fiction is probably in my top 3
I'm
genres.
now going to have to do 2 recommendations, tell you my favorite top historical fiction, and then the one I'm recommending this week.
Perfect. So I am recommending The Impossible Girl by Lydia Kang. And this book...
That sounds really familiar.
It came out in 2018, so it's semi-recent, and it is just so much fun. It is so adventure, action-packed, and also, like, history-packed. She really put a lot of information in it. So it takes place in the mid-19th century in New York City, which is a very fascinating time to me anyway. So this is like 1850 we're talking about.
Okay.
And as someone who is like low-key obsessed with the movie Gangs of New York, I am always looking for... Yeah, so that's the New York City that this book takes place in, basically. That's the time frame.
Okay.
And it takes place in the community of grave robbers.
I've read this book.
Oh, yeah.
That's why it sounds familiar. Actually, I don't know if I finished it.
Oh, well, you should.
I think I have it on my Kindle, and I think I got distracted by another book that I really wanted to read.
As happens.
That happens way too often.
Oh, I know. It definitely does. It does to me, too. But in The Impossible Girl, we're following a woman named Cora who was born allegedly with 2 hearts, which makes her a hot commodity for anatomists, as they're called, which basically are kind of amateur doctors who take corpses, cut them open, and like look inside and see what the human body is like. And that's
pioneering anatomy.
Yes, and for the longest time, that is how we learned about the human body. It's a nasty business. It's kind of gory and gross. The term ghoul is associated with this. Those are the folks who go dig up the bodies and deliver them to paying customers, who are the doctors. Sometimes legit doctors, sometimes amateur doctors. The line there is kind of blurred back in the day. And it also became a spectacle. So then you've got, people like
Circus.
Barnum and... Yeah, circus,
the
circus
sideshows.
Yeah,
Bearded Lady
they're
and
also...
Wolf Boy or something.
Yeah, they're also looking for
mind.
bodies. Yeah, they're looking for abnormal bodies to put on display.
Right.
So Cora, our main character, she is a grave robber, but she also has to keep her 2 hearts a secret because she knows that she will be highly sought after by both the medical professionals and the folks doing, in the circus and spectacle line of work as well. So she has like all these secrets that she's trying to keep from people. And then there is a mystery afoot. People are turning up dead. People who are also likewise very attractive to these, folks looking for odd bodies, if you will. That's kind of an insensitive way to put it. But, people with interesting abnormalities that would either be money, generating money as a spectacle or furthering science in one way or another. These people are ending up dead before their time via nefarious means. So Cora decides to get to the bottom of it because if she doesn't, she might be next. And it's just a really rich book. It reads really quickly, and it's got so much more in there than what I've been talking about. There is a whole cultural aspect. I believe Cora is biracial. She's, I think, Chinese and white, so she has a whole mystery about who her parents are. Yeah, it's really rich and interesting. There's a lot of class commentary in there as well. So that's Lydia Kang's The Impossible Girl, and I highly recommend it to folks who like historical fiction. There's a little bit of romance in there too, if I'm remembering correctly. It's pretty fun. And anyone who's interested in like medical oddities and likes an action-packed romp.
Romp. Okay, so my favorite historical fiction, one of my favorite historical fiction, I can't say it's my favorite, but it's usually the one that immediately comes to mind. Actually, no, now there's 2. Shit. Okay, so the one I was originally talking about was Nefertiti by Michelle Morin. Ooh. She's written a lot of historical fiction. It's all very good. Nefertiti follows Nefertiti's sister, as like the eyes of what goes on during Nefertiti and Tutankhamun's. They changed, the dynasty changed at that point in life. It changed who they were, their religion, who they were praying to. It went from Ra to the sun god, Amun. Damn, I can't remember. Anyways, it's I was very into ancient Egyptian culture.
I was too.
For a while.
All of it is out of my brain now.
I know.
But when I was
I'm
younger,
trying to remember
like
from the book. But basically, the book is following Nefertiti's sister and looking through her eyes as this wildly changing dynasty is evolving, and it's very interesting. I loved it a lot. I'm gonna have to reread it soon. I'm
gonna have to put that on my list because I also had a love affair with Egyptology back when I was like in middle school.
Yeah, when I was 11, I was
fun.
totally gonna be an Egyptologist. I was the kid that had like the stamps, the hieroglyphic stamps.
Yes.
Stamp set. Yeah.
I used to like write little notes with hieroglyphs. And, like,
Yeah, we totally would have been
friends
friends as kids. God, Jocelyn.
Oh yeah, 100%.
My other favorite, and again, this isn't actually my book recommendation of the week. I've got 3 books here I'm talking about. The other one that just popped in my head that I absolutely love, historical fiction, is Brand, by Jesus Christ, Zimmer Bradley, Marion Zimmer Bradley.
Oh, okay.
It's not as long as Mists of Avalon.
Oh
Take
my
heart
lord,
in
that book goes on forever.
I know. But I love it. I've read it like a million times. It's the story of, I can't remember her name right now. It centers around Troy. Cassandra. It centers around Cassandra.
Oh, I love a good Cassandra story.
Yeah, the one who was cursed to always tell the truth, but nobody would believe her. So she... It's said even in the myths, not even just in the book, that before Troy fell, she had a dream about a burning brand running through Troy and catching all of Troy on fire, and that's why the book is called Brand.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a story that focuses on her life, how she grew up, and how Marion Zimmer Bradley theorizes she came to have this curse, if it even was a curse. She flirts with actually maybe having a god there, or maybe they're just made up. She kind of flirts with that idea, and then it's kind of her interpretation of how Cassandra ended up, because the Homer myths are kind of uncertain of what actually happens to Cassandra.
Yeah.
Just kind of forgotten because everybody's so up enamored with Achilles. Nobody cares
I
what
know.
happens to Cassandra.
Well, with those abs. Cassandra's way cooler. I love Cassandra.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. So yeah,
Yeah.
I really enjoy it. It is a little dark. There are some trigger things that could happen to some people if especially sexual encounters. If you have any triggers about that, I don't recommend reading the book. There are some dark things that happen. But all in all, it's a gorgeous read. I feel
You're not the first person to mention this book to
Really?
me. I have coworkers who also love this book.
I feel like it's fairly obscure, so
yeah.
Man.
Well, my coworkers are
They're librarians,
We're
so, yeah.
librarians, and
it's a beautiful book. I like I said,
Yeah.
I've read it more than once. I like it a lot.
yeah, I'm gonna have to pick it up and put it off for too long.
Well, my actual recommendation for this week is Beautiful Wreck by Larissa Brown. Now, I read this when, I'm pretty sure it was an indie book before it got picked up. Maybe it got picked up? I don't know. The
Ooh.
cover art changed drastically, so I think something happened that maybe it got picked up. I'm calling it maybe historical fiction. It's sort of kind of historical fiction. It's a little sci-fi in that it actually kind of takes place in Iceland in the future.
Oh.
They're doing archaeology work, and technology has progressed enough that you can have, I don't remember exactly the mechanics of it, but basically it's like you have something happen to your brain and you can go back to the past and witness it.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
I love stuff like this. I love timeline.
Then you totally should check this out. It gets a little weird at the end, and I'll discuss that a little bit, but I don't want to ruin anything for anybody.
Yeah, no spoilers.
But it takes place in, I'm pretty sure it's future Iceland. But it centers around the main character, whose name I don't remember anymore. And she's kind of an introvert, loner archaeologist. And she comes across a journal from Viking times. Viking is the history we're going to be talking about. And she just becomes obsessed with it. There's like someone has written poetry in the back of it that's so unusual. It shouldn't have happened. So she elects to go through this procedure and go back and witness it. But I think from the way the book is written, it sounds like something actually goes wrong, and she is actually just in the past.
Oh.
She's kind of gone from this future person who doesn't speak the language to being thrown back in the past, which is something I love. Just an idea that I love. She's thrown back in the past, can't speak the language, but she's very familiar with the culture.
Yeah.
And so she gets taken in by this clan who, oddly enough, is the clan that wrote the book, or someone from this clan wrote the book, and she's trying to figure out who it is, and she's there's a bit of a romance that goes on, but it's also very big culture, like just how people did things back in Viking times. It gets a little more sci-fi at the end, and I don't want to spoil anything, but it feels a little jarring at the end, because suddenly she also pops back to her regular time, like maybe like her time in the simulation was up and she had to go back or something. Or they fix it. I don't remember exactly the mechanics.
She gets recalled.
Yeah, something like that. Like I said, I don't remember the mechanics. But that felt a little jarring. But then it ties itself up in a nice way that I enjoyed.
Okay.
So I do recommend it. What was it called again? It's called Beautiful Wreck. Like a boat wreck. A Beautiful Wreck by Larissa Brown.
That sounds really cool.
You should check it out.
It kind of reminds me of the Tierling series. Have you read those books?
No, it doesn't sound familiar.
Not to just like completely turn this episode into like throwing books at each other. I forget the author,
Isn't that
but
what we do all the time, though?
I know. We always knew that was going to be the danger. It's kind of like this fantasy sci-fi hybrid. It goes so just, I want to say off the rails, but like not in a bad way. It just takes the story that you think you are in to such unexpected places in ways that are kind of similar to what you're describing with Beautiful Wreck.
Okay.
So if folks like things that feel like high fantasy and then have massive twists, I definitely recommend Queen of the Tierlings.
All right. Yeah. We'll throw it in the show notes so that we can check it out, including myself, because I don't think I've read these.
So it's Queen of the Tierling by Erica Johansson.
Okay. We will include that in the show notes so I and everybody else can check it out. Well, speaking of show notes, we're going to put everything in the show notes. Everything we've talked about, the 6 books I talked about, the 14 Jocelyn talked about, in show notes, in case you're interested in any of them. They will be on our website. And this podcast airs everywhere that you want to listen to a podcast. And we are based on every single social media under the same name, Read and Write Podcast.
Yeah, hit us up.
Yes. And that's it for this week. Catch us next Wednesday when we're going to talk about
multimedia writing, research, and organizing. It's going to be interesting.
Mind-blowing. I'm an organizer, so I'm so excited about it.
I can't wait to hear what you have to say about this. It's
Actually,
gonna be
I'm probably
really
not
cool.
going to have that much to say about it. Like, all my organizing is like, and I make a list of this, and I make a list of that, and I make a list of this, and I write down that, and I make spreadsheets, and I cross-check the spreadsheets.
And my string map.
I actually can't do the, we probably should talk about this next time, but I actually can't do the mind maps that everybody likes because they're too disorganized for me.
Well, I'm with you in that camp, so we'll get into it next time.
Until then, stay safe.
Keep reading.
Keep writing.
And go do what you do best.
All right. Bye-bye, Jocelyn.
See you later, Deb.